All right, guys, so now we're going to look at transitions, which are similar to how keyframe animations work, except transitions happen basically on an event. So if you hover over something, that's a good example, you would have a transition with a property that is animatable. So like the width, the color, basically anything that we can do with the keyframe animations. So let's create a new file here called 09 underscore transitions.html. Okay, and we'll put in our boilerplate here. Close that up, and let's put our style. And for the body, again, I'm just going to have a class of box. Okay, we're going to use this element to display transitions. Now I'm going to add some other styling as well. So for the body, I'm going to do background 333, just like we did before. I'm also going to display it as a flex because the item, I want to put it directly in the middle. So I think this is one of the easiest ways to do that, is just displaying as flex, doing align items, center, justify content, center, and then we need a height on it. So we'll say 100 viewport heights. All right, so let's open this with Live Server. It actually opened in the wrong browser. Let me bring it over. Okay, so we just have a dark background. Now let's add the style for the box. So I'm going to do background white. We'll use color names. And let's do a width of 100 pixels and a height of 100 pixels. So this should give us a square right in the middle of the page. All right, now we're going to take a look first at the different transition properties, and then we'll look at compacting it into the single transition property. Just like with the animation, you have a bunch of different properties, and you can combine them, just like background properties, all that stuff. Borders, there's a shorthand way for just about everything. Margin, padding. So let's first look at the it's actually called transition property. Okay, so we're going to say transition dash property, and here's where we specify which properties we actually want to have a transition on, a hover or something like that. So we could do all, or we could specify a specific property. So I'm going to start off with just a specific property of background. Okay, so that's the property that I want to add a transition to. And then let's add a transition dash duration. So this would be in seconds. Let's say, we'll say 2 seconds. Okay. Now if I save that, nothing happens because the way that this works is, like I said, it has to be on some kind of event. So we're going to add a hover. So let's say box hover. And I'm just going to set the background to red. Okay, that's it. Now if I save this and I hover over it, let me just show you without the transition first. If we get rid of that and I hover over it, it just goes to red, right? We've seen this before. If I use a transition, it slowly transitions into red, and then when I come off it, it transitions back to white. Okay, in the duration of 2 seconds. So you can just use this on simple button hovers, maybe put like 1 second on the button hover, and it just gives it a smoother effect rather than just, shifting right to red. Now we can also add delays if we want. So we could say transition dash delay, say 1 second. And now if I hover over it, nothing's going to happen for 1 second. Actually, that wasn't really noticeable. Let's do 3 seconds, and I'm hovering over it. And after 3 seconds, it starts. Okay, so that's the transition delay. We also have the timing function. I'm going to put that right here. Transition dash timing function. And this, we're going to use ease in out. Okay, so basically just like with the keyframes. And let's comment out the delay. And it just eases in and out. So it starts off slow and ends slow. Now, of course, you can take all of this and put this all together in just the transition property. We can say background. Then we can do the duration, which We'll say 2 seconds, and the timing function, ease in, out. And if we wanted a delay, we could add that on here as well, but I don't want a delay. So doing this, we should be able to comment all this stuff out because it does the same exact thing. So we'll save, and there we go. Okay, now there's other things that we can add, that we can transition. So let's go ahead and say border dash radius, and we'll set that to 50%. Now, if I hover over it, notice that the transition is only working on the background color. The border radius is just switching right away. That's because we didn't specify that here. Now, what I could do is I could add a comma, and I could say we also want to transition border radius, like that. And now you can see that it transitions. But what I would probably do here is an all, unless there was something you didn't want to transition for some reason, but I want everything here to transition, so that works the same way. We get a cool little effect. Now we can also do like the height and the width. So let's say we want to make it bigger. We'll say 300 pixels, and let's say width 300 pixels, and save. And now it goes from a little white square to a big red circle on hover, and it does it very, very smoothly. All right. And again, just experiment with it. Use some other properties. In fact, all the transitional properties, I'm actually going to paste in this file for you guys so you have it. So I'm going to go right here and paste this in. So transitional properties, they have to have an identifiable halfway point. So things like colors, positions, width, font weight, font size, max height, max width, opacity, outline color, visibility, width, word spacing, z-index. All these things can be different values. It can have a halfway point. It's not just like it's not binary. It's not one or the other. All right, so these are all the properties that you can experiment with. So I'll save that, and you guys will have that for reference. So in the next video, I want to look at the transform property, which you can use in conjunction with transitions to do some really cool stuff as far as rotating and moving things around the page, things like that. All right, so we'll take a look at transform next.